Hi there. This is a fascinating game in the Morra Gambit of the Sicilian. It's the Esserman Van Velde line from the game Mark Esserman, an American IM, against the well-known Dutch GM Luc Van Velde, played in Orlando, Florida 2011. After e4 and the Sicilian with c5, white goes for the Morra Gambit with d4, c takes on d4, c3, d takes on c3, and knight takes on c3. White has gambited a pawn, but will have a very active piece play. After knight c6 and knight f3, black's most common defense here is d6, but e6 has its adherents too, and it's still a very popular move being played by Karpov and Gashimov, and of course by Van Velde himself. Bishop c4 developing and inhibiting an eventual pawn break with d5 for black. a6 takes control of the important b5 square and supports a b5 pawn push. After castles, black here first develops his king's knight, rather than going to f6, which will allow e5. Knight to e7 is preferred. And then we have an interesting probing move by white, bishop g5, pinning the knight and encouraging an f6 attack by black, and white wants to prove that that f6 pawn compromises and weakens black's kingside pawn structure. So when the bishop retreats to e3, now knight g6 or the immediate b5 was playable. Knight g6 is met by the preemptive move bishop b3, foreseeing the b5 move by black. And now when b5 is played, Esserman threw in knight d5, quite a common idea in the Sicilian, giving up a piece, because after e takes on d5, of course, black could have played a move like rook b8 first, taking control of b6 with around equality. But after Van Velde goes for the piece capture with e takes on d5, e takes on d5, hitting the knight to e5, now d6, that pawn is a really nasty wedge, inhibiting black from developing his kingside bishop. So after bishop b7 and knight takes on e5, f takes on e5, f4, obvious idea by white to open up lines of attack. And this is where Van Velde chose the losing move. If he would have continued with e takes on f4, it looks like a horrible position to play for black, but black can just about claim equality. If instead queen f6 as was played by Van Velde, then white's winning after f takes on e5, hitting the queen. If the queen doesn't take the pawn, runs to h4, then we can see now a bishop f7 check, sending the king to d8, and rook c1 shuts off lines of fleeing lines for the black king, and white is going to be mating in a couple of moves. If instead of queen to h4, queen takes the pawn then on e5, then we can see bishop g5, and that's threatening a move now like maybe rook e1 would come into being contention, bishop f7. Queen takes on g5 is going to be losing, because after queen takes on g5, white's got queen to e1 check. And if the king moves to d8, then the queen's going to be entering via a5, and this is clearly a winning line here for white. So after bishop g5, the bishop can't be captured. If bishop e7, black will be more than happy to give back his piece if he can get his king into safety. But then white's going to throw in bishop f7 check, and if king to f8, then d takes on e7 is going to get the piece back, and that's going to prove that black is busted. So the king has to run to d8. The game continued. D takes e7 check. Knight takes on e7. Now queen d2. Looking for queen a5. So after king c8, now the other rook gets into the game. Rook ac1 check. The knight interposes. Knight c6. Rook to d1, one option here, threatening queen takes on d7. That's defended by queen f5. bishop f4. Rook f1 would have been just as good here for white. After bishop to f1, offering up the bishop now on f7, and the white queen's looking at d6, and then mate on c7. So after queen takes on f7, queen to d6 with a mate threat on c7, king d8 allows the sack now on c6, rook takes on c6, bishop takes on c6, and queen takes on c6, and it's game over here. I believe Van Velde resigned. If he would have continued with, say, rook a7, then it's going to be a forced mate. I don't know in how many moves, but bishop g5 would do the job. So this has been the Esserman Van Velde line in the Morra Gambit. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.